Today's episode is in part brought to you by Skillshare. Now, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. We all have that one person in our lives that wants us to be consistent, that wants us to be who we are in their eyes, who wants us to just maintain the kind of person that we are without any jips and jabs, without any up and downs, and without any alterations. And these are the people that are going to accuse you of changing your plans too much. These are the people that want to urge you to stay in one career, pursue one degree, and just be the one person that they think you are. You know what those kinds of people are? They are people of little minds. I mean, it's a little rude to call people a small brain. I believe everyone's got a brain big enough for them to pursue what they love. But consistency, especially a kind of foolish consistency, is going to be the topic that we are going to talk about on today's video. So as human beings, we love assigning self-definitions. We love assigning labels to ourselves that kind of explain who we are, where do we come from, and where are we going to go in the future. That entire narrative gives us a sense of security in knowing that there's a direction to head towards. There is something for us to fight for, and there is something for us, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel that's waiting for us. So what this then creates is a kind of effect where you are pursuing something just so you're pursuing something. And habits, routines, gradually, all that stuff, they are gonna start to define some of the things that you're gonna be doing. And confirmation bias then feeds that entire cycle back into yourself, which means you're gonna be deliberately seeking out activities which complements your definition of yourself. That confirmation is gonna feed back into your actions, and your actions is gonna feed back into the self-definition. So over time, you're gonna have this loop. Over time, this loop becomes a habit, and then you've basically turned yourself into a person that's halfway consistent, halfway interesting, and halfway just normal. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with having a definition of yourself, and there's nothing wrong with giving yourself labels, such as, I'm a fitness person, or I am a book person, or I am a person that loves to explore ideas or whatever. But the problem comes when you're too overly attached to that label. Have you ever seen people that are overly attached to one side of themselves, and they muster up all their strength to defend that one trait that they're super proud of? If you need to consciously defend an identity, if you consciously have this need to remain consistent, if you have other people telling you that you should remain consistent, well, that just means you're going to be trapped in this eternal circle, and over time this becomes your life. When I first started writing, I was so just wrapped up in this idea, this image of becoming a writer, or becoming this person that can write beautiful letters on empty pages. That became a thing that sort of defined my self-worth, and over time that really turned into a negative thing. Because instead of placing my attention on the craft, on telling a good story, on mastering the form of the short story, or mastering or studying the masters and then writing stories on the side, I placed all of that energy into the self-definition of a writer. So that perpetual cycle of not focusing on the craft, that cycle of just doing the same thing and doing the same crappy thing whilst refusing to change, that's a foolish consistency. That consistency is a stupid consistency, and if you want to maintain that, you're setting yourself up for just failure. And you're closing off so many doors and so many opportunities of growth. So my focus right now is very much finding out alternative ways to tell a good story, finding out alternative ways to capture the reality around me, and to capture little snippets of life, little snippets of the streets, little snippets of people's conversations, and little snippets of insights. Before, I've limited myself too much to words and sort of this identity of a writer. But now, as I began to shift my attention towards story and life, and telling good stories through life itself, that then led me down some pretty interesting paths. Number one, this new focus towards story really opened up brand new ways for me to capture reality. Ever since I was 8, I became very obsessed with photography and cinematography. And that little obsession and the stupid short films that I made back when I was 10 or 12, that little spark and that little drop of snow rolled downhill, and it gained momentum over time, over the years. And with time and with practice and with this unrelenting passion for better shots, for better lighting, for better production quality, this photography thing turned into half of my job. And recently, as it was trailing through the streets, that little sparkle, it came back. That little sparkle for photography also reminded me that stories are not merely textual, they're also visual. There's so many hidden stories in the back alleyways. There's so many hidden stories in the canals, and there's so many hidden stories just like on a park bench, that I feel like it's almost my duty to leap out of the purely textural stuff and to capture some of the visual stuff, either through photography or through sketching. And sketching is a really interesting example because I've always enjoyed drawing when I was in high school. It wasn't exactly that big of a thing, so that means I didn't really anchor my identity into this identity of an artist. I didn't exactly establish that consistency in my head. So sketching and art just became this pastime. So besides writing and taking photographs, I've been sketching the streets a lot. They're not perfect sketches, but I'm still trying to figure out a way to capture the streets with alternative mediums. And here's one of the things that became my obsession recently. Illustrative art. About a month ago, I became a subscriber of The New Yorker, and the stories were amazing in The New Yorker, and some of the pieces in there were absolutely stunning. But some of the things that really caught my attention were the cover designs for these magazines. They were just drop-dead gorgeous illustrations, and a part of me really wanted to learn how in the hell did they illustrate such beautiful covers? And here's where I have to tell you about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is a platform where you can basically learn everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Ranging from photography to writing to cooking to gardening. Do they have a gardening course on Skillshare? So for me, after my little obsessive episode with the New Yorker magazine's covers, I went ahead and checked out this beautiful course put together by, I'm gonna absolutely butcher this guy's name, Emiliano Ponzi, where the entire course explored methods of sketching, methods of perspective, and methods of conveying a message through a very visual medium. It was very refreshing because I'm so used to representing reality through words and through prose and through lines of poems that I completely forgot that there's an alternative medium out there for me to capture reality. And just the other day, I took some of the lessons from the sketching methods of the course, and I went out and I started sketching some street stuff. They're not perfect sketches, but I'm still learning a bunch from this guy. I am really enjoying it. And through the link in the description down below, the first 1,000 students can actually get a premium membership for free. And in the future, I'm definitely going to update you guys on my art progress, so to speak, because art is not my main thing. So anyway, if you want to learn something new, if you want to break out of that loop of consistency, be sure to check out the link in the description down below for a free trial. So coming back to the second thing, the first degree of consistency is the consistency with your identity. The second consistency, which we really have to work on breaking out of, is this consistency or this obsession with habits and routines. Gradually, life turns into this process of going to work, clocking into work, clocking out of work, coming back home, indulging some entertainment, and just like this cycle plays itself out over time. And that cycle in itself, which I've talked about before, it dulls your sensitivity to all the beauty that's around you, and it prevents life from influencing you as a person. It really locks you away from all of these amazing experiences that are outside of your daily routines. So recently, I've really embraced this idea of reviving that sensitivity to my surroundings and reviving that appreciation for architecture, reviving that appreciation for just the quiet atmosphere of a basement bookshop, and reviving the joy of reciting Shakespeare in a pile of rocks.
To be or not to be? That is the question. And that's all I remember from my theater 101 class. And I'm gonna try to sit down without dying.
And after combining this use of alternative mediums to represent reality and this willingness to embrace life outside of routines, habits, and bounds of identity, when the inconsistencies of the outside world merges in with your willingness to depart from your identity, something beautiful happens. All of a sudden, you're willing to try new food. All of a sudden, you're willing to try ice skating for the first time. All of a sudden, you're there practicing your first, a beginner piece on a piano. All of a sudden, you're learning how to sketch the streets and learning how to illustrate because it's interesting. The internet as a learning platform has everything in store for you. So it's up to you to break out of this foolish consistency. It's really up to you to explore all the richness of life, becoming that archetypical polymath or Renaissance person in the 21st century. This is the time to do it. You can be a graphics designer and a writer. You can be a graphics designer and a musician. You can design your own cover arts. You can be a writer that's also interested in sketching. So you can probably sketch the art in your own little chapbook of poems or something. You can be interested in photography and in books. And you can probably start a YouTube channel just like this one. I don't know, the possibilities are absolutely endless. And I'm pretty damn excited to hear from you guys in the comments section down below. What are some of your interests? How are you going about combining all of those interests into something completely new? How are you going about breaching the consistency and, you know, venturing into something that's just completely beyond your bounds, but at the same time, exhilarating to explore. Anyhow, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you for watching, and remember, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.